Shut up and sit down.
Welcome, my friends. This is Nerd Safari. I am Simon, and we are here to talk about the 1985 fantasy epic Legend. So this movie was directed by Ridley Scott, who had had a ton of success with Alien and Blade Runner, and what he wanted to do was create a bleak and lavish twist on the traditional Disney or Grimm's fairy tales formulas, and I think we can all agree that he succeeded. However, this movie was not only a critical flop, it was a commercial failure. So let's talk about why, and why we still love it today.
Something really special that I've been promising to show you.
Now, it wasn't unusual for a fantasy movie in those days to be a commercial failure. When you look at Conan the Barbarian, Krull, Willow, even Dark Crystal, movies that we know and love today, they really did not do well in the box office at all. The first fantasy movies to actually do well at the box office were the Lord of the Rings trilogies much, much later. Now, this movie was filmed at the 007 stage at Pinewood Studios in England, and it was the largest film stage in the world. They put a ton of effort into building out the set, and then the stage literally burned to the ground. One of the security guards was walking around in the morning, saw birds flying out of the rafters, and then heard a weird noise. That was some gas that had collected in the top of the stage, igniting. The entire stage burned to the ground. It was actually rebuilt a year later to start filming the 007 movie View to a Kill. But in terms of Legend, it was gone. Everything was lost. The entire movie cost $25 million to make. $10 million of that was tied up with the set that was in that 007 soundstage, burned to the ground. Now, another challenge with this movie was that Ridley Scott owned the rights to the movie outside of the US, but Universal Studios owned the right to edit and distribute the movie inside the US. So what we ended up with were actually 4 different versions of the movie. The first one was Ridley Scott's version that went out into Europe, and it's today still seen as the most superior version of this movie. The version that Universal Studios put out inside the US was 25 minutes shorter, and they took the orchestral music, the score, and they replaced it with German electronic music. A really, really weird decision. Tom Cruise hated the US release so much that he actually prompted people to ignore it and go find the European edit instead. Filming for this movie took 3 years, and when you consider that Mia Sara, it was her first ever movie role. She started at 15 years old, cast alongside Tim Curry and crushing it, but you see her visibly go from a 15-year-old to an 18-year-old by the end of that movie. Kind of funky. Now, talking of Tim Curry, one of my favorite actors in this entire movie, he had to go through 5 hours of makeup to make him into the Lord of Darkness. And after shooting, he had to lay in a bath to dissolve the gum that was sticking the makeup to his face. One night after filming, he got very claustrophobic, started to pull the makeup away from his face too soon before the gum had dissolved, and ripped the skin from his own face, gave himself such bad facial rips that he actually had to have 2 weeks off of filming to recover before Ridley Scott could continue shooting again. So this movie was not without its challenges during filming, but let's talk for a second about why we love it as fans. Well, first of all, you've got Tom Cruise as Jack, with his floppy hair and his original teeth way early in his career. Then you've got fairies and you've got unicorns. This is a really immersive fantasy tale. Next, in this movie, good is really good.
Nothing is more magical. As long as they roam the earth, evil can never harm the pure of heart.
And evil is really, really evil, especially Tim Curry. There are no gray areas in this movie.
You disgust me. You're nothing but an animal.
We are all animals, my lady.
The visuals in this movie are incredible, from the stage that they built that sadly didn't survive to the makeup. This movie had the largest makeup crew ever used in movie history. And something that really appeals to me is, depending on who you believe, this movie may have inspired a series of video games called Legend of Zelda. So if you're a Zelda fan, go rewatch Legend. Now do me a favor. Before you watch this movie again, raise a glass with me, and when I say, "Is your heart black and full of hate?" you will say, "Black as midnight, black as pitch, blacker than the foulest witch." Yes.
Sunshine is my destroyer.
Now, when we host this movie in the Alamo Drafthouse movie theaters, we always remind people to tip their servers, because they may be innocent, they may be sweet, but if you don't tip them, they'll bring you rotting meat. That's all I've got for you tonight. I am Simon, this is Nerd Safari. Enjoy Legend, and we will see you next time. Peace out, folks.
Shut up and sit down.